The modus operandi, the pyramid scheme. To understand Jeffrey Epstein's crimes, you have to understand the structure. It wasn't just abuse, it was a business model. Federal indictments describe a pyramid scheme of victimization targeting vulnerable girls, often from broken homes or low-income backgrounds. The crime, sex trafficking of minors. The setup. Epstein used a ruse of massage therapy. He would approach young girls, often near high schools or in public places, offering them money to give him a massage. The escalation. Once inside his homes, Palm Beach, Manhattan, or the Virgin Islands, the massages would inevitably turn sexual. He paid roughly $200 to $300 per session. The recruitment. Crucially, he incentivized victims to become recruiters. He would pay a referral fee, often $200, for every new girl they brought to him. This turned victims into unwitting accomplices, creating a self-sustaining supply of minors. Evidence source: witness testimony. Dozens of victims known in court documents as Jane Does provided consistent accounts of this specific payment structure and recruitment requirement. Bank records. Cash withdrawals and payouts match the dates and amounts described by the victims. Part 2. The Black Book and the Flight Logs. Epstein didn't just collect money, he collected people. His social currency was his network, and the evidence of this network was physical. The Little Black Book. What it was: an address book containing contact information for hundreds of people, ranging from average citizens to the world's most powerful figures. Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, Prince Andrew, various scientists, and CEOs. The evidence. While having a name in the book isn't proof of a crime, it established his unprecedented access. It corroborated victim accounts of who they saw at his properties. The flight logs, the Lolita Express. What it was: detailed pilot logs for his Boeing 727 private jet. The evidence. The logs documented trips between New York, Palm Beach, New Mexico, Paris, and his private island, Little St. James. Crucially, they placed specific victims on the same flights as Epstein and his wealthy associates, corroborating the timeline of interstate trafficking. Part 3. The 2005 Palm Beach Raid. In 2005, Palm Beach police executed a search warrant on Epstein's home. What they found was the first smoking gun. The crime: solicitation of prostitution. The evidence: massage tables and tools. Police found massage tables in non-therapeutic settings, along with oils and sex toys matching victim descriptions. The message pad. Perhaps the most damning piece of physical evidence was a message pad found by the phone. It contained handwritten notes from young girls leaving their names, ages, and times they were available. Essentially a scheduling log for abuse. Part 4. The 2019 federal vault, when federal agents raided Epstein's $77 million Manhattan townhouse in July 2019. They weren't looking for message pads. They were looking for digital ghosts. They found a safe. The crime: conspiracy to commit sex trafficking. Hard drives and CDs. Agents seized massive amounts of data containing thousands of sexually explicit photographs of females, some of whom appeared to be minors. Cash and passports. The safe contained stacks of cash, loose diamonds, and a fake Austrian passport with Epstein's photo but a different name. Nebulous residence listed as Saudi Arabia, suggesting he was a high flight risk. CDROMS. Labels on discs found in his possession were handwritten with names of specific victims. suggesting he kept trophies or potentially blackmail material, compromat, though the full content of these remains largely sealed or redacted. The aftermath, the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. Epstein died before he could stand trial, but the evidence against him lived on in the 2021 trial of his partner, Ghislaine Maxwell. The verdict: Maxwell was convicted on 5 of 6 counts, including sex trafficking. The evidence confirmed. The trial authenticated the pyramid scheme model. The manual, a distinct household manual, was entered into evidence, detailing how staff should run his houses, proving the abuse was systemic and organized, not random. Pilot testimony. Epstein's pilots testified about the passengers, confirming that young girls were frequently flown across state lines, often with Maxwell and Epstein, cementing the federal jurisdiction of the crimes. The evidence paints a picture not of a man who simply made mistakes, but of a calculated predator who used wealth, logistics, and a network of enablers to industrialize the abuse of children. The spider's web. Jeffrey Epstein was a social chameleon. To the scientists, he was a philanthropist. To the politicians, a donor. To the royals, a confidant. But to the law, he was the center of a network that implicated some of the most powerful people on earth. His little black book wasn't just an address book. It was a map of the global elite. The Crown. Prince Andrew. Perhaps the most damaging connection was to the British royal family. Prince Andrew, the Duke of York, was a frequent guest at Epstein's properties. The connection. Flight logs show Andrew flew on Epstein's jet. He stayed at Epstein's homes in New York, Florida, and the private island. The allegation: Virginia Giuffre, née Roberts, alleged she was trafficked to the prince for sex on 3 occasions, in London, New York, and the Virgin Islands. The fallout. In 2019, Andrew gave a disastrous interview to the BBC, denying the claims. In 2022, he settled a civil sexual assault lawsuit with Giuffre for an estimated £12 million, though he admitted no liability. He was stripped of his military titles and royal patronages. 2. The presidents. Clinton and Trump Epstein's web bridged the bitterest political divides in America. Bill Clinton, the Democrat. The connection. Flight logs confirmed the former president took at least 26 trips on Epstein's plane in the early 2000s, often to Africa for charitable work. The defense. Clinton has denied ever visiting the private island and claims he knew nothing of Epstein's crimes. However, witnesses have placed him on the island, though no photos of him on the island have surfaced publicly. Donald Trump, the Republican. The connection. In 2002, Trump called Epstein a terrific guy, noting he liked beautiful women on the younger side. Epstein was a fixture at Mar-a-Lago in the 90s. The fallout. Trump banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago in 2004, allegedly after Epstein hit on a member's teenage daughter, and later claimed he was not a fan. Flight logs show Trump flew on Epstein's plane several times in the 90s. The prodigy of Coney Island, 1953 to 1976. Before the private jets, the island, and the infamy, there was just Jeffrey. Born in 1953 in the working-class enclave of Seagate, Brooklyn, Jeffrey Epstein was a quiet, gifted boy. The son of a groundskeeper, he possessed a mind for numbers that seemed to offer a ticket out. He was a math whiz and a pianist, graduating early at 16. But his path was erratic. He drifted through colleges, Cooper Union, NYU, never finishing a degree. Yet, in 1974, he managed to talk his way into one of Manhattan's most elite institutions, the Dalton School. without a diploma to his name, he was teaching physics and calculus to the children of New York's wealthiest families. It was here, in the classrooms of the Upper East Side, that he learned his most valuable lesson. Access is everything. The Master of the Universe, 1976 to 2000. His time at Dalton ended in dismissal, but he had already made the connection that mattered. Through a student's father, he landed at Bear Stearns. In the cutthroat world of Wall Street, Epstein thrived. He was an anomaly, a college dropout who rose to limited partner in just 4 years. By 1982, he was on his own. He rebranded himself as a bounty hunter of assets, a money manager who only accepted billionaires. He was a cipher. No one quite knew how he made his money, only that he had a lot of it. He gained the trust of retail titan Leslie Wexner, securing power of attorney over vast fortunes. Suddenly, the kid from Brooklyn was buying the largest private home in Manhattan and a private island in the Caribbean. The Open Secret, 2001 to 2008. In the early 2000s, Epstein was at the pinnacle of society. Scientists, princes, and presidents flew on his jet, the Lolita Express. But behind the high walls of his Palm Beach estate, a dark pattern was emerging. Local whispers turned into police reports. Underprivileged girls were being recruited for massages, a pyramid scheme of abuse orchestrated in plain sight. In 2005, the Palm Beach police raided his home. The evidence was damning. Federal charges loomed. But then the justice system blinked. In 2008, in a deal that would later shock the world, Epstein avoided federal prosecution. He pleaded guilty to state charges, serving just 13 months in a county jail with work release. He spent his days in an office and his nights in a cell, believing the worst was behind him. For a decade, Epstein lived as a pariah to some, but a free man to all. But the world had changed. In 2018, investigative journalism unearthed the sweetheart deal of 2008. The voices of his victims, once silenced, became a roar. Federal prosecutors in New York opened a new case. July 6, 2019. The tarmac at Teterboro Airport. Agents swarmed his jet. This time there was no bail, no work release. He was charged with sex trafficking conspiracy, facing the rest of his life behind bars. The silent end. He was placed in the MCC, one of America's toughest federal jails. On August 10, 2019, cameras in the unit malfunctioned. Guards failed to make their rounds. At 6:30 a.m., Jeffrey Epstein was found unresponsive in his cell. His death was ruled a suicide, but it brought no closure.